Welcome to the Innovation Conversation, a podcast about innovators, both in business and real life. Hosted by myself, Ricardo Pascual, and Harry McDonough. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech. The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Innovation Conversation. Today we are joined by Tyler Gordon. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much, Ricardo.
Pleasure having you here, Tyler. Tyler, would you like to introduce yourself a bit to the audience, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's Tyler Gordon. I'm originally from South Florida, but I've been living in Portugal for about 4.5 years now. And I would say I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. I've built a few successful businesses and consultancies, and currently building some interesting things here in Portugal.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a lot to unravel here. Obviously, I'm biased because you're in my hometown, so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about the move to Portugal, which for me is quite fascinating. But I guess the first one, can you tell us a bit more like all the companies you got started and how did you end up in Portugal? How did that journey went?
Yeah. I mean, since I was in middle school and high school, my buddies and I were selling websites. I guess my first big business that I built was in my 20s. We built a real estate technology business that built scheduling and messaging tools for real estate agents called Agent Inbox. And we ended up scaling it to about 10% of the US, raising some money and exiting the business. I'm also the chief operating officer of a consulting business called Big Binary. So we're a high-end software development agency, and we have about 200 engineers, employees, and we build software for AngelList, Major League Baseball. We've had 4 startups that we built that have been sold. I actually hired them back in 2013 to build my first startup. That's how I got connected with them. And just building some other organizations here in Portugal besides TejoMed. One's a intergenerational housing charity. We're matching older Portuguese people that live alone with people that need affordable housing.
Okay, interesting. So how did that happen? Because everyone I talk to in Europe always wants to go to the States, but you actually moved the other way back, or the other way around. So how did it happen?
Yeah, so I've been working remotely since 2013. And so my last business in the US, I could be remote, but I had to go to a lot of meetings and in-person things. And it was always a dream of mine to live abroad and to spend time in different countries. And so after the Agent Inbox company, I sold my things and moved into my backpack and was traveling for about 2 years, working and helping run the consulting business. And I arrived here January 2020.
The timing.
Yeah. I had no intentions.
Perfect timing.
I honestly didn't even know much about Portugal at the time. I had a bunch of Portuguese friends from the Bay Area, but that's about it. And I liked it, so I extended 1 month, then 2 months, then 3 months. Then the pandemic happened, and now I live here. I feel like living in Portugal as an American really is... in the United States, I feel like people's identities are tied to their work, where I feel like people here in Europe, work doesn't necessarily come first, and you can have relationships with people for a very long time where nobody ever talks about work. And it's a little bit of a detox of my American entrepreneurial spirit being in this type of community.
Yeah, that is actually, it's very true. I think, at least, especially in Portugal, we tend not to ask what people do for a living. We just take them for, oh, they're here. What's your name? Okay, we'll deal with you as an individual, not so much show your job title, because unless you're a doctor, which you can always use a doctor, right? Then people really don't care, I think.
Yeah. No, I think it's really... I think there's a balance that I like halfway between the two, where work does not come first in life, but also as people that like building things, I mean, it's our passion, and there's really nothing I'd rather do most of the time than just create interesting things.
Did you find it like when you launched your company here? So actually tell us a bit more about what you do right now with your company in Portugal.
Yeah, so we're building Portugal's first concierge doctor's clinic. So concierge medicine's been around in the United States at this point for 20 years, and some very, very large companies in the space. And the idea behind concierge medicine is you pay a membership fee that allows a doctor to see less patients and provide you with personalized care. So most care at this point is today is if something's broke, you go to the doctor and they fix it. Where concierge medicine is really focused on trying to prevent things from breaking early on. And more of a practical standpoint would be both here and in the United States. If you want to see a GP or family medicine doctor that you like, oftentimes it takes a while to get in. You get there, the doctor's super late. You have a 15-minute appointment that's like super rushed, and the doctor doesn't even know your name. They focus on giving drugs and treating symptoms. And it's not the doctor's fault either. I mean, the system, when doctors are paid per volume of patients they see, end up seeing about 2,000 or 3,000 patients per year, and just that's what they have to do. With our business, concierge medicine, as I said, you have a membership fee, so the doctor sees less patients. In our clinic, it's instead of 2,000 or 3,000 patients per doctor, it's under 500, and you have a relationship with one doctor who knows you inside and out. For example, your first appointment's over an hour and a half long. They get to know you. They do a comprehensive physical. They run all these tests, focus on prevention and longevity. You can make same or next day appointments in our clinic. They're 30 minutes to an hour, and they start on time. The doctor gives you their cell phones. So you can call, email, text anytime. And you just have someone that is there for you whenever you need. They're proactively working with you to make sure you're healthy.
And how did you come up with the idea?
So being here 4.5 years in Portugal, I'm a human and I have medical issues sometimes. And I was just dealing with some things and getting a bit frustrated with the lack of attention I was getting from doctors. Sometimes after the appointment, follow-up questions, or if you're taking any medicine, you need to follow up with the doctor. And I was just not able to go through this process in a way that I found acceptable. And I was complaining to my parents. And my parents were like, Tyler, you're a professional. Why don't you get a concierge doctor? We both have concierge doctors here in Florida. You should get one. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And that sounds great. I'm going to sign up immediately. And I started researching concierge medicine here, and I couldn't find anybody doing it. And after that, I was like, okay, well, I learned a bit about the business model. I really became very fascinated by the incentive model of the business as well. And we decided to launch one here in Portugal, and it's going great at this point.
Nice. Did you, comparing with the companies you launched in the US, how hard was it to actually launch a company in Portugal?
It's a bit difficult to build a business here. There's a lot of bureaucracy. Service providers tend to move a bit slower, less of a pressing and priority for a lot of things. So, in the US, you can incorporate a business in 15 minutes on the internet and open up a bank account shortly afterwards. Where in Portugal, there's just a lot more details that need to be addressed through the entire process. I know the Portuguese government's spending a lot of time and effort right now trying to simplify a lot of these things, and I expect that to be how things continue, but it's a bit more challenging than my previous experiences.
Interesting. In terms of investment and finding investment, was that something you did for your business right now, or you're self-funding the business?
Yeah, so previous businesses, we've raised financing millions of dollars, and going into this business, we were very deliberate about picking a business that would be cash flow positive early on, that didn't require a ton of capital, that could grow as large as we want it to be. So, for example, if we want to keep it a small business, it could be a profitable, healthy business where we take care of everybody. But at the same time, if we just want to keep growing, or if we start growing quickly, we want to raise money, we can. So at this point, we are self-financed through our other ventures. And we're not opposed to taking money on. That's not a bad thing. A few of us in the team invest in other businesses, but we just want the optionality and also the ability to have a tightly held business at this point.
Interesting. And, what are your plans for the future for the business?
Yeah, right now the focus is just building a healthy business. It's not only is it a business that's focused on health, but we want a business where we pay people really well, where people, obviously the first 2 years of a startup, you have to bust your butt and really make things happen. But we want a business where we can respect people's lifestyles. And we're not building a lifestyle business. I heard an expression recently which was a dividend business. So lifestyle business is like the small one where you just kind of relax and you work a couple hours a day. Everyone's trying to go after these unicorn businesses where you need to exit for hundreds of millions of dollars for your investors to even be happy. Where a dividend business is a business that can grow at its own pace and pays all the principals and people involved very well. Our target is to grow across all of Portugal. We know we can have a very healthy, profitable business where we take care of our employees and our patients and doctors. But if we want to keep growing, hopefully we will have the option at that point.
Nice. It seems like the future is bright. I mean, what feedback are you getting from both doctors and actual people using the service?
Yeah. So on the doctor side, I mean, at the end of the day, we're in the business of having happy doctors. We have happy doctors. The doctors will do an amazing job of taking care of the patients. And so right now, most doctors, I mean, you hear about it, it's not just in Portugal. Like doctors are overworked, they have too many patients. And so with the concierge model, I guess there's two major innovations. One is that the doctors, instead of running and rushing through the day, they can walk through their day. On busy days, they're still focused on patient care all the time, but they actually get a chance to be doctors and spend time with patients and get to know them and get to know their life story and their history and have this relationship. And most doctors went to med school not to make a lot of money. They went to med school to take care of people. And so the doctors absolutely love this model as well because they get to do what they're really passionate about. And then also with the doctors, we split the subscription revenue with the doctors. So the doctors' incentives, so it's not fee per service. Most doctors right now get paid based on the volume of patients they see, where in concierge medicine, because there's this rev share component, the doctors are incentivized to keep patients happy and healthy. So there's this like really nice blend between the two. And then on the patient side, I mean, we've been told pretty much every single patient we've had has told us it's the best healthcare experience they've ever had in Portugal, and that they've never had a doctor spend this much time with them and care about them. And the whole system of being able to just chat and text with the doctor after the appointment and make quick appointments, it's just a breath of fresh air that allows people to really go deep and have those things that kind of been bugging them for a long time addressed in an iterative fashion that with someone they trust.
It makes sense because so many times I remember going to the doctor and then being prescribed something and then not being able to give feedback on that prescription because this is it. This is the final word and you always need to follow the doctor's instructions. But actually, they might not be right. So you might need to get some feedback and actually go back to the doctor and say, hey, can we change this? Can we adapt that? But then that's another appointment you need to book. And then you need to schedule something else. And then if you're not doing through private healthcare, it's an absolute nightmare to get that type of access, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah, I think we like to think about healthcare 3.0, right? Which is adding in the lifestyle components, adding in the root cause analysis components. And it's not just about drugs and treatment. It's about understanding the person as a whole. I mean, you might have a problem with your knee and you go to the knee doctor and they do this particular thing with your knee. But if the doctor doesn't have the time to really look into it, maybe it's your back. Maybe your back's a little bit off. Maybe you have some stomach issues and the doctor's take this stomach medication, but really maybe it's a diet adjustment, or maybe it's something that if you had the time to work through it with somebody, you could really figure out what that root cause is. That's really the basis for longevity and prevention. Having a fulfilling life is being able to address the issues at the root cause as opposed to just treating symptoms.
Yeah. If you could fix something, I guess, in the Portuguese ecosystem, what would you fix?
Question. Now, I feel like from an entrepreneurship standpoint, a lot of times when I talk to other entrepreneurs about ideas, I feel like people very much, it needs to be all or nothing, where if the idea isn't taking over the world in $1 billion business, it's not exciting. Or as well as if someone else is doing it, that means they can't do it. Where I think in the United States, there's very much the idea of the pie gets bigger the more you build. And you don't need to build $1 billion business. I mean, if we build $1 billion business, that'd be great. But most businesses that are successful, that earn money for people and have happy, healthy people working there, they're small businesses or they're medium-sized businesses. And so I think that's a completely reasonable goal, is to go after businesses that are of whatever size they get to. And then on the other people are doing it side, I mean, I think that's how innovation happens. Often it's competition. It's like, hey, these people are doing it. Let's just try to do a better version of it. And I don't know, just some experiences I've had with people, and I think that as more entrepreneurship and innovation happens, that mindset will also shift.
When you're building all these businesses, I'm sure you come across really dark moments and hard times. How do you overcome them? And what advice would you actually give to people going through them right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I advise some other startups in the consulting business as well. We work with early stage businesses quite a lot. And I think people are just surprised when they hit these existential threats in the startup journey. And people just, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We have this thing, and if it doesn't get resolved, it's the end of the business. Why would this happen? Why is this happening to me? This never happens to anyone else. I feel like anytime you start an organization is innovative, you're going to hit a couple existential threats along the way. And really just kind of just saying, hey, this is normal. This is expected. Let's figure out a way to move through it, and not becoming panicked or, wrecked about it. I think that's a very reasonable approach. I also think just like mental health, just having a network of friends, potentially doing therapy, having ways to kind of reflect on things is really important, and it's not talked enough in the entrepreneurship community. Where a lot of entrepreneurs I know, including myself, when I did my first business, I just go all the time. And so when these dark moments happen, and you haven't really built a infrastructure around you that can support you, it gets very challenging. Where if you have people that are experienced or people that know you well, you can have these conversations and relate to them, and get a lot more perspective on things that are happening. Because oftentimes startup challenges seem like you're the only person that's ever gone through it, when in reality, it's like anything in life. In reality, a lot of people have experienced it, and maybe they have some perspective that can help out.
Do you have like a group, a good support group that has a lot of entrepreneurs, or it's just people that actually do completely random things?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like here in Portugal, we've developed a community of friends that are all doing very exciting things and interesting projects. But like, the group didn't form around those projects. It kind of formed more organically around relationships and being friends. And then as we all got to know each other better, like, oh, wow, we're all doing really interesting things in our professional careers. And but even if that's not your case, I feel like people can go foster this. I mean, there's so many entrepreneurship meetups and people that just like talking about things, even if they're not entrepreneurs. A lot of people that work in larger companies like to talk about this stuff and participate in it. And if you want to foster this community, I very much encourage people to do so.
I'm always curious on one thing. What was the biggest cultural shock you had? Because you were in Portugal just amongst the pandemic, right? So it's not really the best time because everything was shut off or shut down. So how, what was the biggest shock you had?
I think the most challenging thing is to slow down the expectations on how fast things are going to get done. And a lot of services and things that you need, expecting it to take a couple tries. If your AC is broken, it might not get fixed the first time they visit. And coming from the US, which is just like go, both professionally and personally, I mean, it's easy to get very frustrated in that situation. But I feel like it's also been a healthy and refreshing shift in my personal development, where I've said, okay, it's going to take some time. It doesn't need to be done right now. And it's just part of the culture a lot of the times here. So
interesting, yeah, because it's always, I know everyone I talk to, and they actually have the same thing, and I have the same problem every time I go back to Portugal, which is I'm on the go mode, and then everyone else is very slow, And it starts driving me nuts. Like, why isn't this done straight away? Like, why are they taking so long to service at the restaurant, something like that? It just drives me nuts. But then I get, okay, I'm thinking like someone who lives in a big city. So every time I come back, I'm like, okay, slow down a bit because people just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. I feel like halfway between the two is a healthy approach. Like, I don't want it to take 5 times to get my refrigerator fixed, but I also don't need to be just a crazy person and be like, hey, this needs to get done within an hour. Like, there's like a blend between those two spots that is a good place to be in.
What was the biggest challenge you had in TejoMed when you were building it?
I think we expected this, but it took longer than we expected, this one part, which was just recruiting an amazing doctor, our first concierge doctor, which is, I think culturally, Portugal, people tend to be a little bit more risk adverse. And then on top of that, layering in doctors being a bit risk adverse. And so there's the fact that we're pitching this new model to a doctor that we want them to join a early stage business. I don't even want to call it a startup because it is a service business at the end of the day. We're at the same time, we want to find the best people. I mean, we're building a new business and we're focused on delivering the best care we can in this country. And so we needed a doctor that wanted to join, that was technically skilled as a practitioner, but also a huge part of this business is building relationships with patients. So they also need that relationship component, which took us a bit of time to find the right person. And our current doctor, Dr. Luisa Batista, is amazing. She checks all the boxes and everybody is obsessed with her that's seen her.
So you have, how many doctors do you have in the platform? I mean, obviously, it doesn't need to be a crazy number because then they can service quite a lot of people, but roughly.
Yeah, we just launched 2 months ago. So we have one full-time concierge doctor, and we also have a nurse who's also amazing. Together, I mean, we give them the time to serve their patients and really be there for whatever they need.
Interesting. And how, the feedback you're getting from patients and stuff, what, I know you already told me what they're saying, but do they share the word with their friends and they say, hey, actually start doing this because it actually works really well?
Yeah. I mean, half of our customers at this point have been referrals, and this is just early on. So, like, right now, the challenge is just getting in front of more people because it's a unique model that people typically don't have experience with, especially here in Portugal. So, there's a bit of education. But typically, after somebody has their first comprehensive exam, the first one, like, people are just like, oh my God, like, this is, I've never had somebody spend so much time really learning about me and addressing things that are typically overlooked.
I mean, it's completely different because normally I think they just they kind of patch you up, isn't it? You go to the doctors, they give you some medicine, okay, you're good to go. But actually, maybe the problem's a lot deeper than that. And then they actually need to spend some time with you and really analyze it well. But yeah.
And it's not the doctor's fault. It's easy to blame doctors that are spending 15 minutes with you, but their income model is tied to volume of patients they see.
Mm-hmm.
That's how insurance reimburses. There's not a system that encourages prevention and personalized healthcare and working with people to make sure that their root causes are addressed. I think what we've seen in the United States, because we've studied the market really extensively, which is that you end up saving money. Even though we're a premium service and we charge a monthly fee that is higher than most people have paid for other healthcare services, the end result is it saves you money and time in the long run. And most importantly, you have you're healthier and you can enjoy your life and your time better.
Interesting. And, in this whole ecosystem, what do you think about the city of Lisbon, like overall? Do you think it's buzzing, not buzzing? What do you think?
Lisbon's the best. It's just a lot of
Well, that's all right. We always do it in English anyway. So.
and it's really unfortunate because I feel like there's a lot of frustration with the amount of change that's happening in Lisbon, because a lot of people that are living here, there's things that are missing to protect people that currently have their lives here. At the same time, I think you're seeing the same trend in most major cities around the world. The rise in remote work has led people to move to cities where there's either a price arbitrage or there's just a high quality of life in the particular city. And so, I don't think that is specific to Lisbon, even though when you're living there, I mean, it feels like that's the experience.
I'm curious on one thing. A lot of people say they want to move to the US to do business. Now, you've had the experience of doing business in the US and doing business also in Europe and Portugal. Do you think that's relevant? Like, does it actually come a stage where, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you actually should move to another country? Or quite on the contrary, you can always find what you need in the country you're at?
I think it comes down to your personal objectives and the type of business that you want to build. There's no doubt that the US has the best infrastructure today to build early stage businesses at scale. It has so many vendors that are very US specific that can support your journey of building the business. You have a massive investor community, 350 million people that have high buying power. It's a huge market, right? But it's also hyper competitive. A lot of times, if you want to build a business, at least at scale, it's easier to do it there. But at the same time, you might, as I said, there's a lot of competition. Where being in a smaller country like Portugal or Europe or any other country, there's a lot of country and cultural specific both challenges and opportunities. This business that we're building, the objective is a higher margin, lower volume business. So being in a country of 10 million people, we can create economic opportunity for us and for people we work with, thinking through what we can build here in a way that will work for us. But I think it also comes down to what lifestyle you want. I think if you want to just do the startup grind and hustle and really bust your ass to build something, take over the world, live in New York or the Bay Area, great places to do it, probably as well as London. But if you want to have more of a chill lifestyle, Portugal provides that in many ways.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think a lot of people I talk to, they always want to grow and they want to grow in the US, but I don't think they realize what it takes to actually grow the business there. Because like I said, it's super competitive. And it takes a lot from you, right? It's not just something you can just chill. I'm going to finish at 5:00. No, you're not. You're going to continue working until you get stuff done. So that's a bit of a lifestyle change for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I think in the United States, people just identify so much with their work as part of who they are, and that's the culture. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's just that is
different.
Yeah.
What about the taxes? I'm always curious because you did move to a country that has a higher taxation overall. So how does that feel like?
If you're earning a lot of money in the United States, the tax bracket is pretty similar to what higher income Portuguese taxes are.
Okay.
Right now, we're building this business. I'm trying to figure out as an American, I'm taxed in both countries regardless. So I'm just currently working with our tax accountant to try to figure out how do we structure things correctly. Yeah, I do feel like taxes in Portugal are complicated and make it difficult to, one of the issues I run into here is it's not that the taxes are unjustified or too high as much as that it's difficult to understand them and move through the process. In the US also, but for a corporation specifically, they're a lot more simple. Personal taxes are always complicated, but I don't know. You can't escape taxes.
I'm always curious because when people think, for example, they want to open a business, there's a couple of states that always spring to mind, right? Florida being one of them, then Texas, and obviously Delaware, because they normally have lower taxes. And I was curious to understand, like, when you move to Europe, you always end up paying a lot more taxes when compared to those other states, in this case in the US. So that's what I'm curious about.
Like, how big of a shock was that?
It's when we built this business, it was expected that we were going to pay Portuguese taxes. So, I think when you think through the model and you think through the opportunity, that's part of just figuring out what you're going through. Yeah, I think both countries' taxes are pretty high, and not suggesting that they should be lower, but it's a political discussion that
Those,
on a different podcast. But
yeah.
It's especially being American, where you're required to file in both countries and pay taxes in both countries, just makes it quite complicated and something that needs to be very deliberately addressed early on if you're doing entrepreneurship outside the United States.
And if something goes wrong, the Marines come in and save you. So it's not all that bad. All right, Tyler. If people want to reach out to you and find more about TejoMed, how can they do so?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can check out our website, TejoMed, TejoMed.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Tyler Gordon. Also, Tyler at TejoMed.com. I'm always happy to talk about entrepreneurship, other startups. I do a bit of angel investing as well. And just like to work with people that are doing amazing things and sharing things. And so...
Sounds good. Tyler, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ricardo.
All right.
The podcast is also sponsored by Notion.so. Notion is offering 6 months for free for new users. Make sure you check out our website, thestartupevents.co.uk, to redeem this offer. This podcast is also sponsored by startupnetworks.co.uk. Startup Networks, it's an online forum where you can find all the resources you need to run your startup, from grants to investors to tips and tricks on how to be successful in your startup. This podcast is also sponsored by ODEV Tech. ODEV Tech is your premier software development partner. Make sure you check them out at odev.tech.